Good afternoon. I'm Anthony Hayward, and I'm pleased to welcome you to this session with John Pilger. I was last on stage at Hay with John 5 years ago when my book about his television documentaries was published. Today, I'll be talking to him about his new book, Freedom Next Time. In his journalism, his books, and his documentaries, John's often challenged conventional viewpoints and shown us events through a lens very different from that which those in authority would like us to see them. So any new book from John is always something to look forward to. Please welcome John Pilger. John, this is a book about how nations glimpse freedom only to see it taken away. It's also a book about imperialism, British and American. The two collide in the story of the Chagos Islands in the Indian Ocean, where the people were expelled by the British government in the 1960s so that the main island could be handed over to the United States for use as a military base. It's a remarkable story. How did you come across it?
Well, the story of the Chagos Islands has been known for a very long time. I first heard of it briefly during the Falklands, when it was pointed out to me that Britain had sent a fleet to go and save 2,000 Falkland Islanders at the other end of the world, whilst 2,000 British citizens in islands in the middle of the Indian Ocean had been expelled by British governments. And the only difference was that one lot were white and the others were black. That was the distinction. The other difference was that the United States wanted the Chagos Islands, and especially Diego Garcia, as a major base. So nothing was said. And that tells us a lot. It tells us something about the ruthlessness of governments, especially imperial governments, and it tells us about the part that the media play in this. Because I remember at the time, shortly after the islanders were expelled, I remember reading about it, but a group of defense correspondents were flown to Diego Garcia to inspect the beginning of this new American facility. And not one of them raised the question, certainly not in print, of where the population was. They'd all been expelled under the most brutal circumstances. I suppose I became aware of the extraordinary evidence of this, the official evidence of this, when files were opened by the lawyers who were then representing the Chagos Islanders in their struggle through the British courts, discovered this treasure trove of official files out at Kew. And there was the whole conspiracy. It's quite interesting. Those who talk about conspiracy theories might like to look at this, because it's a complete conspiracy of how do we get rid of these people from the island so that we can give their homeland to the Americans for a base. And they discuss it in the files, how to lie. One file is described as maintaining the fiction. It's written by the Foreign Office chief lawyer at the time, who was later given an honour by the Queen, which is standard for that sort of behaviour. So it was all there, and that the suffering of the people was almost self-evident, but the reason for it was really cracked this open, and I was determined then to make a film about it, which I did a couple of years ago, and that formed the basis for the first chapter of Freedom Next Time.
So why didn't journalists reveal what was happening at the time?
Well, because most journalism follows the agenda of what I would call the amorphous authority. You can call it what you will, government, authority, the establishment. And it's no secret, you talk to the BBC and reporters about this, about reporting politics, and it's the agenda laid down by Parliament and the Executive and Whitehall, and it's by lobby correspondence and diplomatic correspondence and journalists who are really camp followers with the establishment.
They become part of the establishment.
They become part of it, and we've seen that in its most vivid and tragic form in the run-up to the invasion of Iraq.
Yeah. I mean, the High Court's ruled that the islanders should be allowed to return.
Yes.
Do you think that's likely to happen?
Well, now the islanders, I mean, it's an extraordinarily epic struggle. These are people who'd lived on islands in the middle of the